Everybody, welcome to the show. It's me and Belial.
Hello, hello, hello. How you guys doing? I see we did a new intro to there. We added the Tomato King intro because by popular demand, everyone wanted me to be the Tomato King. So I replaced this creepy spider with the Tomato King,
Mm-hmm.
thanks to, in part, to Tony's hard work.
No, it's nothing. It looks good though.
Thank you, thank you. So tonight's going to be a little mature. We're going to still be on the serial killer type of thing. This was a recommended. Who was the person that recommended this one?
Luna actually did one of our mods and one of the Horde members. She was like, she sent me a video and she was like, this. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, so I figured we'd look into it. We did miss on, obviously, we missed Friday's stream due
Mm.
to, Tony had family obligations, that type of deal. So we just we're going to continue the theme of killers and so forth for October, and this is kind of the next one. This one is Kendall Francois. You're seeing his high school photo right now. If you
Mm.
don't know, he was a man that had murdered 8 women. Suspected 9, but the last one will be explained why it's suspected that woman is still missing. But we're going to be talking about Kendall Francois, also aka Stinky. You will find out that reason later.
Mm.
And also aka the Poughkeepsie Killer. It's an interesting case because kind of like Dahmer, and I mean and you might agree with me. It's kind of like Dahmer, where he really didn't have any sort of brain damage or some kind of huge abuse from home. That he just simply out of the just out of the blue started this rampage of murder. What
Mm.
do you think of that, Tony?
I think it kind of like when I was like reading up on it and watching videos and stuff, it just seemed very random. I feel like, there's a couple types of killers out there, but one of the type of killers that are out there, especially serial killer type deal, it's because they can. And that's why they do it. It's like a power trip. I don't know
Yeah,
what in his life that happened. It didn't seem like he had like trauma or neglect or anything like that. But it did seem like his family feared him.
yeah. I mean, the guy was what 6'4" and 240 pounds or something like that.
He was 6'4". Yeah, he was a big guy. The next picture is actually an updated picture of him. This is his high
He,
school picture.
yeah, this is him when he was in high school. Hi, Vanished. How you doing? Hi, Grandma Sherry. Hi, BC. The usual
Hey,
crowd.
hey
Uh,
everybody. Hope you all having a good day.
I hope you are. But yeah, I mean, it's a very interesting case, for sure. So we're going to be discussing it.
Mm-mm.
We're obviously going to go a little bit slower. The memorial video I usually do for this it was a little delayed, so I'm probably going to make it a separate video. I'm going to attach it to the channel.
Mm.
So it's going to be a separate video from this. It's going to be uploaded probably tomorrow or something like that. So
Mm.
still in the process of making it, and I got the song picked out and everything. But I don't like rushing it too much.
Yeah.
So there
Well,
will not
you
be.
do amazing work with those memorials.
Yeah, the memorial video will not be played at the end. It will be a separate video. You
Mm.
guys can watch it. Um, Maybe we'll do that more in the future. Because it should be its own thing. It shouldn't be like just at the tail end. Maybe
Yeah.
people to watch it. Um,
Hey Kim.
how you doing, Kim? Hi, Kim. So this is him in jail. This is him arrested. But so he was a big guy, obviously. So
Mm.
we're gonna go through the story a little bit of this individual. For those catching up, we're doing about the Poughkeepsie Killer, aka Stinky, and his real name is Kendall Francois. So
Mm.
basically, Francois was uh, basically was born in July 26, 1971, and he grew up in Poughkeepsie, New York. At the age of 4, his parents bought the house on Fulton Avenue. I think it was 99 Fulton Avenue. You want to show the house?
Yes, showing the
This
house. No.
this house becomes very infamous later on because this is where he kept the remains of his victims.
Mm.
Uh, One in the crawl space under the porch. I think about 3 or 4 under the crawl space under the porch, and 4 in the attic. He also would just let them rot. And there have been reports that he put the skulls of his victims in a kiddie pool
Mm.
and they were under a mattress. And like literally, the weirdest thing about this case is that later on you'll learn that he was not the only resident of the house. That he was
Mm.
actually uh, his parents and his sister lived there too. And it becomes a very weird scenario when you think about it, that they hit this situation.
No.
Uh, yeah, and if the music's too loud, just let us know. Obviously, I think a fact to it. So, um, so Poughkeepsie, New York, in which most of his crimes took place, uh, between 5 and 12, between the years of 5 years old and 12, he was made fun of by children because of his weight and large stature. He really didn't talk and socialize with these people, his friends, like these kids around him, and
Mm-hmm.
kept mostly to himself. He even played football throughout his time in Arlington High School, and he opted to join the U.S. Army upon graduation in 1989. Another fact, and I think I forgot to write this down earlier on, is that the outside of the house would look clean and spotless, but the
Mm.
inside of the house was disgustingly kept. Garbage all over the place, rotten items all over, uh, soiled underwear.
Was that like a group effort in the house since there were so many
Yeah, it
people living
seemed
there, or was it him kind of
it,
domineering?
it was kind of like the family just didn't give a shit about like maintaining the inside of this house. And that's probably how he got the name Stinky, because, obviously the house is kind of dilapidated and rotten. You don't even hear the music, let me
Oh,
see.
okay. I'll fix it real quick.
Yeah,
Again,
make it a little bit louder.
if it gets too loud, y'all tell me. Okay,
Yeah,
put it up.
I'll try.
I put it up to 14 decibels. No, wait. Let me put it down to 18. Okay.
Oh, let me just check it out and listen to it for a moment. Sorry about that, guys.
Once we find that, see, each song is different, so it's it's not like we can find the perfect. It's always trial and error. But we're gonna pick one song from now on, I think. Not
Yeah,
counting, obviously, the memorial video.
I think it's good now.
It's
If
good?
anyone
Okay.
I think so, but if anyone wants it a little bit louder, we'll do so.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, BC.
Thank you.
Uh, so, so after completing basic training at Fort Still, Oklahoma, in 1990, he was, discharged for obesity.
Mm-hmm.
He enrolled in Dutchess County Community College in 1993, and then in 1996 was promoted to Hall Detention Monitor and continued pursuing his education until 1998. Now, so far, Tony, do you think this sounds like the typical upbringing for a person that would commit violent criminal acts during his, growing up, or do you think this is a pretty normal childhood if you think about it? I
So
mean, being made.
so far it's pretty normal, and it's not like when he was in the military he like saw any war or anything like that. He only went to basic training and then he got discharged for obviously obesity. Um, so I'm trying to put it together. It just seems like he did it because he could. Which
I
which sounds cocky and there's no logic to it. I know, but sometimes they do it because they can.
I mean, it sounds like he suffered from isolation and basically wasn't really popular with
Yeah.
women. And it sounded maybe he lacked the ability to actually make social connections with people. And then he proceeded to not see women as actual people, but as things as items, basically. Hello,
That could
Sutma.
be that. Hey, Sleuth Mom, that could be exactly it. But
And,
this is
and,
the
and
thing too. People get bullied in school. People, there's millions of people who get bullied in school and who feel a certain way, and they don't grow up to be killers.
yeah. So Francois Kendall Francois, or aka the Poughkeepsie Killer. In addition to his studies, he also began work as a hall and detention monitor at Arlington Middle School.
Hmm.
And even though he was familiar face to those within the school system, many stared and noticing his inappropriate sexual jokes towards female students, commenting on his appalling smell. Some even named him Stinky. while his old behavior likely stood out, his odd behavior likely stood out, it
Mm.
would be quite some time before Francois would be held accountable for his private actions. The crimes would begin to take place in downtown Poughkeepsie. The area was also known for the drug sales and prostitutions. This allowed both his victims and this allowed for him to find his victims and also cover up his crimes. Um, it's a pretty interesting one. I mean, what do you think so far
I
of
mean,
the sexual harassment of the women?
well, this is well, it's the especially to the students, which were a bunch of minors. You would think that the school would have done something appropriately, especially the smell as well. Hence, you know what I mean? Like, they should have done something beforehand. There was red flags. It seems like with all the people we talked about when it comes to true crime, there's red flags. There's all these signs. And
Yeah, just be careful while you're driving, sir.
yes, be
Um,
careful.
yeah, but also I would say, what do you think of the inappropriate sexual comments? Do you think that was a red flag? Like, what do you
Yeah,
think
oh,
he
yeah.
would make inappropriate sexual comments to all these women while he was in school with them?
That's a red flag. That's creepy.
Yeah,
Let's be
it
real.
seems.
That like say if you were in school and there was a male janitor making sexual comments and jokes and stuff, you as a man, you would probably, maybe at that time as a kid, you'd be like, haha, boy talk type deal. But if you were a girl, that's awkward.
Yeah.
Especially a 6'4" man, 200, almost 300 pounds.
Yeah, very intimidating for people, and it seemed like he just did really learn to socialize with people and learn what was appropriate language to have with other people, and maybe
Social
this,
skills.
yeah, kind of pushed it. Yeah, maybe pushed him, um, kind of pushed it to the situation that we see now. It's interesting. Um, so I mean, the thing about downtown Poughkeepsie at that time, there was a lot of drug sales, prostitution. So it definitely did allow him to kind of evade capture. I mean, like it gets to the point where I don't even think if he didn't turn himself into, like, I mean, like, and that's the interesting thing. In the end, I think he could have kept on going because the cops just didn't care about if a prostitute disappeared in Poughkeepsie,
Hmm.
and that allowed him to get away with for a little bit, a long time for a lot of
They
his victims.
They always do. When it comes to prostitutes out there just going missing,
Yeah.
nobody really bats an eye until they're like, oh, well, there's about 8 now, so, maybe we should do something about it. Or, you know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
and it's really horrible. It goes back to
Yeah.
our last stream when we talked about it. This is why we need laws in place. Maybe make it legal so it can be safer,
Yeah,
you
I
know?
mean, it's just like the Timothy Haslett situation, where there's a rumor of a serial killer spreading, just like you're going to hear in this case later on. The
Hmm.
cops kind of cover it up and do a half-ass investigation, and basically, surprise, surprise, there's really a serial killer. Now, I'm
Yeah.
not saying the Haslett situation is a serial killer, but it's starting to sound more and more very suspicious on the police activities there. And if you want to actually if you're interested in Timothy Haslett, I think PJ covered it. I think, obviously PJ, I think you covered it. And I think Sleuthworm, you covered it in a couple of videos. Not think, I know, I watched them. So it's definitely an interesting thing to look at. But yeah, it's interesting that, this keeps on happening and nothing changes. So we'll just continue the story.
Uh,
Uh,
I do not have a picture of Tim
no,
because
you don't have to have a picture of Timothy. I was just mentioning it.
no, I'm answering grandma, and I am very handsome. It's so nice when a grandma says that you're handsome, you know you're handsome. Um, but during this true crime, when we do true crime, I don't like to put my picture up because I don't want people to be like he did it. you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be a pretty bad situation where we're talking about a guy who's strangled 8 women, and then we have Tony's picture up there.
Just
That
standing
might,
there with the horns.
yeah, that might not be good.
Yeah.
So obviously he doesn't want to have his picture up, nor do I, and we don't want to have like some silly avatar on the side because this is a very serious matter. about the deaths of, innocent women who did not deserve to die. So we just
Yeah.
try to make it more serious, and we don't have the avatars up. So that's why we're going to put pictures up of the actual scenes, and that's what
Hmm.
you'll see, Kim see.
But like
So
other videos that we do, obviously we're gonna,
yeah,
loosen
I
up
mean,
about, you know what I mean?
yeah, I mean, that's how it is. So the victims. The first
Hmm.
victim was Wendy Myers. On October 24th, Wendy Myers was a 30-year-old prostitute. Wendy Myers. You can put up Wendy Myers' picture. I'm sorry, I forgot to tell you.
I did.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I
I'm
did.
looking at my notes a little bit, so it takes a moment.
No, it's okay. On YouTube it takes a minute, but on Facebook it like goes like
Yeah,
it's linked up really good.
yeah. I think it's because you first linked up to Facebook first and then YouTube. I'm not
That
sure.
that could be it.
We might need to change that one day.
Tim is an
Uh,
enchanter. He's really a skinwalker.
yeah, I'm changing my avatar to a tomato, Grandma Sherry.
It's a tomato.
Um, so on October 24th, Wendy Myers was 30 years old. Prostitute Wonder Myers, after being solicited, uh, after Francois solicited her in Valley Rest Motel on October 24th, 1996, the two negotiated sex for money. And, uh, and, uh, and they were having sex until Francois became angry, believing that Myers had ripped him off. He begins choking her until she dies when the bones in her neck cracked.
Good
Now
lord.
there was a separate. I read another article. It was actually a follow-up article. It was by the because I get my source materials from Murderpedia. I get my source materials from articles, and one of the articles was actually by the Daily News, an article written by Shirley Connelly, which wrote about the spider and the fly, reporter of a serial killer, and she actually did a 4-year correspondence with Francois in jail.
Mm.
Now, she wrote in her article, and this is kind of like the thing you see with a lot of these murder cases where one article has one piece of information, one article has a little bit more piece of information.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the dates are mixed up. Sometimes the cause of death is mixed up. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you'll have different different things in different articles. So in this scenario, they say that her neck was strangled until the bone in her neck broke.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one in her article, the 4-year correspondence with this guy, uh, it basically it basically says that Francois dumped her in a bathtub face down and turned the faucet on when the leg stopped twitching, and he carried her lifeless body to the attic. So obviously that is incredibly different than choking someone than drowning. I don't know if and I don't know if personally I'm going with the choking because that was usually his MO, but it's very interesting that there was two different scenarios of the cause of death. But Francois was a very sadistic person, and sometimes he would change the ways he killed some people. Um, so maybe that was why. Maybe who knows. But maybe it's the second one. I mean, but either or, this poor woman died by his hands. Now, there's another report that says that this woman knew Francois and, kind of ripped him off twice by not having sex with him and taking his money.
Mm-hmm.
That could have also fueled his anger. But this was the first one that was actually sparked his,
It
the
opened the
spree.
door.
Yeah, exactly. What year was the first victim? The first victim was in the 24th of 1990. I mean, let me just make sure. I gotta read my notes.
Yeah, the notes say October 24th, 1996, which is on this day, which was not planned. Obviously, it was not
Oh
planned.
shit! I did not plan that.
Yeah,
That's creepy.
yeah, I didn't put it together until you asked Kim, and yeah, we did not plan that. So may she rest in peace. It's
Yeah.
just
Oh,
horrible.
hello, bushes. Yeah, that's some
Hey,
creepy shit.
bushes.
Sorry for my language, but that's creepy. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, I didn't make the connection until I was typing it out, and I was like, ooh.
Yeah. Yeah, so October 24th, 1996 was Wendy's death. So this would be considered her, her anniversary actually.
Yeah.
So that's some creepy shit. Um, Sorry about that. That threw me off a little bit.
No, you're okay. I think it threw me off. It threw us off.
Uh,
When we're doing notes and we're planning, we don't really, look at the date and the date that we're at yet. So that was just a looper right there.
yeah. So for pretty much, so in the bushes, just to let you know, we're talking about the Poughkeepsie killer, and we are talking about the first victim. We went through the high school and his early childhood. This is his first victim. This is Wendy Myers. You're seeing a picture of.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the boyfriend actually reported her missing to the police, but due to the fact that, he mentioned that she's a prostitute, it really did not make the police want to look for her. And a lot of times, the police kind of put, if a dope goes missing, they're missing. It's not
Yeah.
like they say to themselves, this person's kidnapped. It's not like a kid going missing.
Mm.
So I think, they probably thought, oh, she just probably left him and she's just missing. And also the fact that she's a prostitute probably allowed, they kind of ignored it, it wasn't a priority.
I hope it's
Now,
not the same way now, because
it is the same.
after all the patterns we've had in the past, you would think they would be like, "There's a problem."
Yeah, and it's also suspected that she was the one that gave Francois, Kendall Francois, AIDS. That she was HIV. She had AIDS,
Mm-hmm.
and also he died in prison from that. So, I mean, what do you think of the first victim, Tony? What do you think set him off on this individual, his rampage?
I'm gonna be really honest with you. From reading and judging how he was a joke all his life in his eyes, he felt like he was a joke. He was an oddity for how big he was. He was kind of socially awkward, and he knew her. He knew her. They weren't like best friends or anything, but they were acquainted. You know, I think he was just tired of feeling like a joke. I think he was like, "You're not gonna rip me off. You're not gonna." I mean, there's no excuse for what he did. I'm just, it's really hard to get in his mindset because he has no trauma. He had no family issues, as far as we know, besides, cleanliness, obviously. Um, so I think maybe he just felt like he was just a joke. He was kicked out of the military. He's probably dishonorably discharged for being obese. You know, I that's where I'm going with it. Yeah, he had HIV. Sadly, he believes that Wendy Mayers gave
Yeah,
it to him. They had
yeah, and
unprotected sex.
yeah, and also it's like I don't know if Wendy, he got it from Wendy, but that's
It's
what some of the
assumed.
reports said. Yeah. A lot of times you got to realize we're dealing with documents almost 30 years old or
Hmm.
more, and some information gets mixed up, but he was HIV positive. Now, it's not surprising since he was, would sleep with a lot of prostitutes. He did not have a
Hmm.
relationship. And a matter of fact, if in an earlier statement in the 4-year correspondence with the Poughkeepsie killer with one of the news reporters, he said, "Killing, that's easier than forming a relationship," or something to that effect. Um, so he did not have a girlfriend. He was basically just saw prostitutes, basically. So it wouldn't be surprising that he would have
Hmm.
caught HIV, especially if you're having unprotected sex.
Hmm. Hey, Seal.
Uh, how you doing, CL? So the next victim, Gina Barone. If you want to put Gina Barone's name up, her picture up.
It's up. It's gonna take a
Okay.
second on your end.
So the next victim, it was on November 29th. So a little bit a little over a month, basically, his second victim.
Hmm.
Um, so basically the same year, Gina Barone was 29 years old. She was a sex worker as well. Francois parked his red 1994 Subaru on the side of the street on Route 9. The two had sex in the garage of Francois's residence until Francois became angry that she complained he was too heavy and was taking too long. He chokes her until uh, he can finish, basically, and then he woke up. And then she basically woke up from being strangled, and he continued to choke her until she died. And then he moves her body to the attic of the house. Now,
Yeah, it's a masculinity issue, I think.
do you think that's the thing?
I think somewhere in his head, with his lack of social skills, with being kicked out of the military, with always being a joke, and then you're paying a woman to please you, and the woman is like, you're too big and you're taking way too fucking long, da da. Like, I think that triggered him. It's not an excuse for what he did. He needed fucking help. These people should not have been, died by his hands. But choking is very intimate.
Yeah. I mean, he was a brute, basically.
Yeah,
And you're
he
gonna,
was a monster.
yeah. And the surprising thing is he's disposing these bodies. He's disposing of these bodies in
Hmm.
his own house with his sister. His little sister's living there, and his mother and his father's living there. And he's just letting these corpses rot in the house, and no one notices the smell because it smells so bad in there that even a rotten corpse is not noticeable by all the garbage.
Well, they
Uh,
also believe too, there's another story to it. They also believe too, in the house, nobody really, they were a family that was like, what's said in the house is stayed in the house type deal. They don't talk about their problems. That's why there's so little about him and his mentality on this whole thing, and we're guessing. They think that maybe he was probably the house bully, and
hey,
nobody dared talk about the smell.
who knows?
That's the thing,
Um,
we will never know.
on 11/31, 1996. This is Catherine Marsh, basically the
Hmm.
third victim. You can put up the picture.
Hmm.
So basically, I think like yeah, literally like two days later, after dropping his mother off at work on the Hudson River Psychiatric Hospital, picks up a prostitute, Kathy Marsh, takes Marsh back home to his house after arranging sex for money. After sex, he chokes and kills Marsh before washing her body in the bathroom. He then takes Marsh's body to the attic and places it with the other bodies. So
Oh,
that's not victim number three.
he's changing it up.
Yeah,
He's now washing the bodies.
yeah. I mean, my guess is that this was a spontaneous action, and now it's starting to be more planned and premeditated.
Yeah.
Because the thing is that he had a type, and the type
Mhm.
is basically, short brown hair, white woman,
Mhm.
slender build, and that's basically the type that he's going after now. Because maybe this has become, he's starting to like it, basically, and that's my thought process.
Yeah, Grandma. He's a monster.
Yeah,
All of
absolutely.
them that we've been talking about are
Pretty,
monsters.
yeah. So Gina Barone was, and then basically what happened is 12/9/1996, Gina Barone, the second victim, was reported missing by the mother, Patricia Barone. But like I said before, it's due to her occupation, and how we deal with adults being missing.
Mhm.
They're missing. They probably just walked away. Prostitute's a dangerous job. Maybe she went to another town. Cops put it in the back burner.
Mhm.
Uh, but fear started a little bit developing in downtown Poughkeepsie. A lot of prostitutes were basically looking at men and worrying about if, because the rumor mill is starting up now. Three
Yeah.
women suddenly disappear in downtown Poughkeepsie. You're starting to think there's something wrong. The cops, they're still oblivious to the facts because honestly, they just when you're a prostitute, you're a secondhand citizen.
You're
Uh,
disposable. Let's be real.
yeah, and you'll see that even today, unfortunately. And
Mhm.
this is how a lot of serial killers kind of get away with a long time with their crimes.
Mhm.
The next victim, it was Kathleen Hurley. Um, Hurley. Put
Mhm.
up her picture, Kathleen Hurley.
Mhm. What's up?
Okay, so Kathleen Hurley, in January 1997, Kathleen Hurley, 47, disappeared. She last seen walking along Main Street in the downtown area of Poughkeepsie. Hurley, like the others, was a white, had brown hair, and small build. Same month, City Poughkeepsie Police, following an extensive investigation, plans Francois home at 99 Fulton Avenue under surveillance. Uh, Prostitutes reported that he was a notorious rough during sex. So basically, she goes missing.
Mhm.
Obviously, he killed her. And basically, the prostitutes are complaining about this guy. He's rough. He's abusive to these women. And, they just kind of put him on surveillance. But I don't think they suspected him of being a serial killer yet.
No.
because the typical serial killer is usually a white male.
Mm,
That's usually you don't see too many black male serial killers as much as
no.
white males. So it threw them off a little bit, and also how the cops just really didn't take this seriously as of yet. But bodies, started piling up in the attic. They were rotting under the porch, crawl space. And the most shocking thing was that the family they lived there. It was like they just didn't notice the dead bodies.
Mm,
And the mother, Francois' mother, Polita, was a vocational counselor for the mentally ill. That's why she was being dropped off at the psychiatric hospital earlier on. The sister, Christine, was a full-time student pursuing a degree in family studies.
mm-hmm.
Kind of crazy if you think about it. Uh,
It's throwing me off.
yeah. On the outside, it was basically a clean house. It was a very clean house, but the inside you would have like maggots falling from the ceiling, rotten corpses of raccoons, garbage, soiled garments, and that covered up the smell of the rotten corpse. But you think about these professional people living in this the inside is literally smells as bad as a rotten corpse, and no one is batting an eye. That seems to me like completely odd. What do you think of that, Tony?
First off, yeah, she was a lot older.
Absolutely.
Kathleen, she was a lot older. Um, I there's something. It's like we have all the puzzle pieces, but we're missing like three or four.
Yeah, I mean, I'm inclined, and this is an opinion. This part is
Mm-hmm.
opinion by me. Is that I feel like they knew something was going on. They obviously knew he was seeing prostitutes,
Mm-hmm.
but I think like they knew something was going on, but they were able to just ignore it. Maybe. I mean, you see that in a lot of scenarios. But it's very odd behavior
And but
by
these
the
are
family.
one's like a counselor, the other one, like
He's going to school to be like working for
for
work
family.
family stuff.
Yeah, so I wonder how they didn't see within their own family a mental struggle.
Yeah.
That's what's throwing me off. Maybe his family was also, excuse me, but fucking with him too. We don't know.
Maybe,
That's the thing. To be a fly on the wall.
yeah. I mean, they didn't talk that much, the family afterwards.
Oh
Surprise,
no.
surprise.
Yeah, they were very what goes on in our house stays in our house. They only said what they said.
But basically, a month later, Poughkeepsie cops made a decision to contact the FBI. So February, FBI for help, and although the FBI investigators were interested, they were limited by the circumstances of the case. In order to establish a profile of the suspect, they needed a crime scene. So basically, because there was no crime scene, they couldn't really understand what was the MO, how this guy was killing people, who would what basically made this serial killing uh,
Yeah.
tech basically. Sorry for stumbling over my words. My
Well, that's it.
apologies.
No, you're good. I think that's kind of the thing when it comes to prostitutes, especially missing prostitutes. You get picked up, and you go to another location, and you do what you got to do there, and then they drop you back. That's basically how it works. Unless you work for a madame or a pimp, then there's a brothel type thing, illegal brothel, mind you, and where they come to you, you go into the room, do your business, and you leave, and there's security there as well. There's brothels are set up a little bit differently, but in this instant they're going to another location, so the cops' big excuse is, well, we don't have a scene, we don't have this, and it's kind of like
FBI.
you kind of want to shake them and be like, that's the point of being a prostitute. It's supposed to be discreet, do your job, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think the profession of a prostitute, the main thing is they want to be ignored by the authorities so they can do their job, but that also kind of affects them because when they actually become victims, they're ignored as victims. So it's interesting because they have to hide from the cops
Mm,
doing what they're doing so they don't get thrown in jail and get harassed by the cops. But the same thing is making them targets to these
yeah,
predators.
which is why, again, prostitution should be legal.
I see I have a few tomatoes by the chat.
They love you. Dad didn't think to check the attic.
The dad not only didn't check, it was like I think it was under the porch as well, and he used to sleep near the area. So yeah, they like not only that. I'm going to tell you, not only did the dad miss the corpses, but also one of the detectives actually went up to the attic and didn't
Mm.
notice the corpses
Oh my
earlier on.
lord.
So the amazing detective that caught him was actually allowed into the house, but never noticed the corpses in the
What
attic.
was this like? How many corpses were there when he
I
did
think
that?
there was like two or three.
So he could have not so many. So five of them would have been alive today.
Yeah, pretty much. The detectives really like when you read like the actual murderpedia and everything, they make it look like and also if you watch like a lot of you know true crime documentaries, they make the cops look like they're like oh they're on the scene and they're doing this investigation. But when you actually look at this woman's like report, like it really does show that it was just pure dumb luck they caught this guy.
Mm-hmm.
Like pure dumb luck. Like literally one of his
Mm-mm.
victims, the last person that wasn't about to be killed, like was about to be killed, escaped and was half naked and then like ran into a convenience store. I'll read that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And basically the cops were putting up missing persons of the last victim. And the reason why they were doing that, guys, and we'll get to that soon, was because she was an informant for the police officers. And they coerced her, they pushed her, they said, oh, you won't go to jail, we'll put a wire on you if you go and talk to Francois.
Mm-mm.
And she kept on getting in the car, and they would take her out of the car, making up excuse. But the point is that she was an informant for the police officers, and basically it was like a big. That's the main reason why they were looking for the last victim, because they were like, "Oh shit, we've been using this woman for trying to get the serial killer, and now she's disappeared." So, and these are the two same people that caught supposedly Francois. But we'll get into that.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit of a rant. It's like crazy when you actually look into it. Like the cops just completely fucked this case up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
But
Grandma Sherry, real quick. Sex workers are so vulnerable. It is. They are. Male and female ones are, and I don't know why we have not made it legal by now. Where it is legal in one state, isn't it?
in
Nevada?
Vegas, no, but it's only certain territory, like certain areas in Nevada.
Yeah.
It's not legal all over Nevada. You know what I mean? Like, at least
Yeah.
that's my understanding. The informant was murdered. Yeah,
Mhm.
actually the informant was Newmaster, the last victim, Katina Newmaster. We haven't got to her yet, but we'll get to this full story about her soon. But it was very, very apparent and that they really, really screwed up a lot, the cops.
Mhm.
But if you look at a documentary, it makes the cops look like superstars. Like it's just weird sometimes how we report things in this world.
I mean, there's
Um,
patterns.
yeah. So basically, next
Mhm.
victim was Mary Healy Greco. Sorry for mispronouncing the last name. In 1997, within 1 hour after the police met with Francois, Mary Healy Greco is killed. Francois picks her up, kills her in the same way as the others, and places her body in the attic of the house. So 1 hour after meeting the cops, probably talking about how he's like beating up all these prostitutes, and
Mhm.
he murders another woman.
That's cocky. There's a cockiness there.
So yeah, it's definitely copyons.
I
Yeah, it's
see.
pretty fucked up. Yeah, I would say they fucked up if their
Yeah.
informant was murdered. Yeah, no, it's so weird how they reported this in a lot of YouTube videos. But then you have in 3/7/1997, Catherine Marsh is reported missing by her mother. And she had not talked to her mother since November 11th, 1996. Marsh, can you put Marsh's picture up again?
Yeah, she's up.
Marsh was pregnant at the time of her death.
Mm-mm.
So the police questioned some prostitutes who say that Francois liked to choke them. Francois racked up a few arrests, but investigators saw him as a brute who beat up women and not a sadistic serial killer.
So he was a woman beater.
Yeah, but they just like, oh, it was okay that he was beating and choking these prostitutes, but they didn't put one and one together to figure out maybe he's the one making all these prostitutes disappear.
See, that would have been like if I was a cop, I would have been like, "What are you guys talking about?"
Yeah,
That's how abuse goes. Can go very slowly to verbal, to threatening, to intimidation, like physical intimidation. Then it
I
can
don't
go to
think.
violent, and then
Yeah,
it can grow.
no, that's not Marsh, by the way. That's New Master.
Is okay. Hold on.
You put the wrong one on. I'm sorry. Maybe we don't have her picture. Let me see. One
I
moment.
don't think we have her picture because I cannot. It's not here.
Oh, you know what? Sorry about that, guys. If you saw the earlier picture of this woman, and sometimes I don't look at the stream, and this is my apologies. This is Newsmaster. We don't have a picture of Marsh because they never bothered to have a picture of her.
I'm trying.
So,
Not even in the lineup photos. One, two,
no,
three,
not even the lineup photos.
seven. Yeah, there's only 7 here.
Yeah. So, yeah, not even the lineup photos they had her picture. So,
It's fucking disrespectful.
so sorry about that, guy. A little screw up on my end. My apologies.
No, that's fine.
So, but that lady that you saw earlier was Newmaster, and
Hmm.
she was the last victim, supposedly. That was the informant, basically. Newmaster was the informant. So, let me see where I last left off. So, in 1997, ninth month of 1997, Michelle Easton, an African American prostitute, disappears. Easton is reported missing on 10/9/97. Now, that was when you did the lineup, when you put up the lineup,
Hmm.
that's the black woman. Now, a lot of
Hmm.
people believe that she was not his victim, but she did go missing around that same time, and she is still missing to this day. No one has found
Hmm.
her body. No one knows where she's around. Yeah, the lineup picture, you can see the woman's face there. So, yeah, so that is a
Yeah, it
very,
doesn't look like what he would
yeah,
normally do. But then again,
yeah, and she's missing to this day. No one knows where she's at.
mm-mm.
Let me just check the chat. So basically, some claim she was. So the next one is in November 1997. Mary Harley Cracone was, the woman that we talked about earlier that was murdered an hour after talking to the police, was reported missing on that date in November 1997. This report was actually initiated by the police. Her mother died the previous month. Her father, a retired New York State corrections officer, came to the police to ask for help in locating Mary so he could tell his daughter of her mother's death. Police soon discovered that she was actually last seen alive in February 1997 on the same Poughkeepsie streets as some of the others. So as soon as they find out a cop is interested in these prostitutes, they start looking in a little bit. If you notice
Hmm.
the pattern, guys.
Yeah, and Mary is the woman that's to the left of.
Yes, that's
Yeah,
Mary right
that's
there.
Mary. Yeah. Yeah, he had a type.
Yeah.
That's
So,
horrible.
yeah, I mean, it's fucked up. But and then you have 1/23/1998 picks up and tries to kill a prostitute, Laura Gallagher, but she is able to free herself and convince Francois to drive her back to Main Street. And then on 2/26, basically a month later, Laura Gallagher files an assault charges. On 5/18/1998, he pleads guilty to assault charges, sentenced to 15 days in jail, and only served 7 days.
What the fuck?
What do you think of that, Tony?
I think that's ridiculous. I don't understand if they're like, you're serving 15 days, mind you. That's not enough in my eyes. But yet he's released on 7. What, for good behavior? That I don't. Why are we giving these criminals good behavior, especially the violent ones? And I'm not talking about like, oh, he sold a little pot or something. No, he attacked a woman.
Yeah,
And you give him the full 15 days. Why don't you just change the days to years?
yeah, but you know why? Because probably they didn't want to put her on the stand. She's a prostitute. and the jury probably would not sympathize with a prostitute. They put him in a suit. You know, he's a good guy. He's going to school and all that stuff. He served in the military. You catch my drift.
He didn't serve.
Well, you know what I mean. He was in the
He
military.
basic training, and he bumped
Yeah.
out of it.
Yeah, but still looks better than the prostitute on the paper to these people. So Sandra Jean French, you'll see her. You'll see that that's Sandra J. French, which is right there, the other one.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, on June 12th, 1998, Sandra Jean French, a 51-year-old mother of three, disappeared. Her daughter's reporter discovered her car 3 blocks from Francois' home. He then moves French's body to the crawl space of the house, basically under the porch. In 6/15/98, the police find French's abandoned vehicle in Arlington, and at the same time, her mother reports to be missing. So she's missing at that particular time. She's reported being missing. So 3 blocks away, a missing car is noticed of Francois, and still no one connects the dots. Guy strangles prostitutes and beats them. He's charged with assault. Women are mysteriously disappearing around this area. There's an abandoned car of a missing woman who's a prostitute. I mean, it just seems more and more odd that they never connected the dots. And there's still more victims. Andre Pegliesi picks up and kills a prostitute, Andre Pegliesi, and dumps her body in the crawl space of the house. So this is another person that he's murdered.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have New Masters. Now you can put up New Master, Cantina New Masters. Master. Basically, case drew particular outrage, and this is kind of a quote from the article. Case drew particular outrage. She was an informant for the police, busted on dozens of drug arrests. New Master had dodged a sentence by wearing a wire for the cops. Menane, thank you. Menane sent her back out on Main Street with instructions not to get in Francois' car. She did again and again. The police always found a way to pull her out. At one court date in the winter of 1998, New Master pointed at Francois, who was seated in the front row, charged with assault. That's him, that's the killer, she giggled out loud to her friend. The details of her deaths are vague, but she was Francois' last victim.
Mm-mm.
So the cops actually put this woman in the line of danger of Francois and put her into the attention of Francois. Let that go through your head a little bit.
I don't think they knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
And that's her mother.
Oh, one moment. Yes, that's her mother.
Yes. This poor thing. I wonder if people are ever going to realize that, prostitutes or escorts, whatever you want to call them, that they're actually people. That they have kids. That they are trying to survive. They have families. They're a daughter. Or a son to somebody. Or a father or a mother. It just aggravates me. We're in 2022 now. And it's still happening.
Yeah.
Something needs to change. It just needs to change.
Yeah. So in 8/25/98, he picks up, she kills Katina, Newsmaster, in the car and leaves her body in the garage and moves Newsmaster's body to the crawl space under the house. If you want to show the crawl space, you can actually show the picture of the crawl space now.
There we go. That's the crawl space after the fact of,
So realize that there was multiple bodies under the crawl space and no one noticed it. There's bodies in the attic, no one notices it. I mean, it's just fucking crazy to me.
And those don't seem very deep.
No.
How could you... I wonder... I really wish we knew more about the family. They had to have known. It's like the Faruko case. The parent... how are you a parent and you not know what's going on in your house, no matter how old your kid is? Do you get what I'm saying? I don't understand. When you have a house or an apartment, whatever, how do you not know what's going on in it?
To be honest with you, I don't know. But there's a lot of mess ups.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
s- so now we're getting to more towards the end. A week later, he set his sights on Christina Scala.
Mm.
So Francois visited Scala's motel room all summer, watching her get high. He later told Rowe, which is the person that interviewed and did a correspondence with him in jail for 4 years, that he imagined marrying her and having a family together with that morning. Family together with her. That morning, he invited her over to his house to get something to eat. 2 blocks away, Manon was making a rare appearance in uniform and was handing out flyers printed with new master's face to motorists. Francois pulled the car into the garage and demanded sex. Scala told him that that was not going to happen. First, he punched her in the face and held her down by the throat as she fought him.
Okay, we don't have a picture of her.
No, we don't. No, we don't have a
Yeah,
picture of her.
sorry about that. I was just making sure.
Yeah. Finally, he pulled her out of the car by her hair, demanding she perform a sex act on him.
Mm-mm.
But his condom kept falling off. Quote, I'll kill you, Francois shouted. It was then he heard his sister's voice calling outside the garage. Kirstine really needed the car. She had to get to school. Francois and Kirstine actually passed Menon on the way. The cop and the killer waved at each other. Scala stumbled into the convenience store where the cops were summoned by the customers and caught up to her. So Bannon was basically annoyed because he was pulled off the serial killer detail, and by then there was actually an article being printed about possible serial killer at this point, and he was annoyed that he was putting up a missing person flyer for his informant that he basically put into danger trying to look for her, and probably because they were pissed off that he lost where his informant was, the department. He was pulled off that detail and and was very annoyed that he had to deal with another report of Francois assaulting a prostitute.
I don't get it.
Incredibly, Manning didn't put it together. The fingerprints on her at her neck, the attack in the car, matched Newsmaster reported when she was alive. So basically, even to that moment, a half-naked prostitute, I don't even know if she was a prostitute at that time. A half-naked woman basically runs with strangulation marks on her neck, goes into a convenience store and shouts that a man tried to, assault her and threatened to kill her, and he doesn't attach that to his informant, who basically said that was his MO, that he used to choke prostitutes. Like, what do you say to that?
There were so many signs. Well, I don't think you should be a cop. I'm going to be totally honest with you. I don't think you should be. I don't understand cops that are like. There are cops out there that are kind of like, this case is too small or this case is not worth doing. There are cops out there like that. We're reading about one right now.
Yeah.
I don't when you're a cop, no matter the case whatsoever, it's a big deal because there's a family. You know what I mean? This is a person. One life is a big deal.
Yeah.
I just don't, I don't, if you can't be a cop, fucking turn in your badge.
Oh, I forgot one detail. I
Okay.
did forget one detail earlier on, because then we'll get back to this. Apparently, Francois was pulled in for questioning a while ago, and he was given a polygraph machine. Apparently, he passed the polygraph machine when he was asked about the disappearances of the women. Now, there are accounts of some people stating that he did not take the polygraph machine. I saw one YouTube video that said he did not take the polygraph machine. He said that he was on medication and that, he couldn't take the polygraph machine. I'm inclined to believe he took the polygraph machine because they didn't continue him as a suspect at that point. So he took a polygraph machine and passed it. So, one, what does that say about polygraph machines? Two, that says it all.
Do you think
two,
that they could be covering it up?
what?
Maybe they're saying, like, oh, there was no polygraph or anything because he was on medication, but they're really being just lazy.
I think sometimes these stories, they just have two different, we don't know the truth. I tried looking up an article that said he didn't take a polygraph machine, but I seen like 5 articles that said he took a polygraph machine and passed it, which is quite incredible if you think about it. So, yeah, I mean, he was questioned by the cops earlier on in the case, and he took a polygraph machine and he passed it. So, a lot of people don't realize that polygraph machines just really stress and anxiety, and maybe he just was not stressed about murdering multiple women and strangling them to death. That says a lot about his mentality if he just kept cool about murdering women. So, very, very odd.
Yeah. It's so many red flags, so many signs, and they're just being ignored.
Yeah. So, just wanted to point that out. I thought I forgot to mention that earlier, fortunately.
That's cool. Well,
Um,
the whole polygraph thing, not cool. I think the cops are being lazy, but it's okay. I didn't know that.
yeah. So earlier in the case, Francois was invited into Menon's. Now, this is the weirdest thing, and I mentioned this earlier before, but basically earlier in the case, Francois invited Manon into the 99 Fulton Avenue house that he lived in, taking him upstairs to his bedroom. There, right under the rotting bodies. The detectives didn't pick up the scent, according to the book that was written. I mentioned earlier. Then 4 years later, I mean, like, even the detective was in the room with the rotting corpses and didn't pick up that there was actually dead people there.
Yeah. I mean, I know not a lot of police officers, they're blessed not to handle death. There's some out there that haven't yet or never will. But the smell. Like, even when people have never been around death before, are like, that smells like death. And it is death.
Well, let me see
you know
if
what
I
I mean?
can. Yeah, I mean, and I should have gotten a picture. Let me see if I can find it. One moment, guys. Because the thing is that a lot of people don't know how dirty this house was inside. It was pretty bad in there.
It was bad.
I'm trying to get.
I wonder why he kept the bodies, though.
I think
Was he sexual with them, or
no, it wasn't like that. He just tossed them in there. That's
trophies? Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, but it was a very dirty house, like extremely dirty. So, yeah.
And when you talk about the mother and the sister, it seemed like they had goals. They were doing things in life, but there's not that much about the father, is there? Do we know anything about his father? Like, was his father one of these? Like, his father could have been a complete asshole, king of the castle type deal. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can't find the photo inside the house, but it was dirty and it was described pretty bad. They had to go into with hazmat suits. Basically, you want to show them like that's how dirty it was. They actually had like hazmat suits where they're like literally like face covered, kind of like the whole that Pazuzu guy, killer.
Well, if anybody's ever seen Hoarders, then you know what they're doing. That's how I'm picturing the house to be. It's like something like a Hoarders.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. So it could cover up the smell, but you had the detective literally walking into the room where the dead bodies were. So that just shows you, like, wow, this is incredible. Man, it was so basically what happened is that one moment. So basically, man was was annoyed about that. He brings the assault case. We talked about that. He actually was invited in the house, and now 4 years later, Francois howled at a memory when he told Rowe he never heard his sound, so pleased. On the day of the attacks on Skeller, cops brought in Francois for his questioning. It became obvious that the police were only looking for him at assault. That's when he came out with it. So basically, they were only looking at assault, not murder. And then he says, quote, "I want to talk to Chief Prosecutor of Missing Women," he announced. A full confession follows. Francois is brought into question and confesses to murders of the missing women. He is charged with second-degree murder. So, I mean, like, he didn't even have to confess. He could have gotten away with even longer. But the cops still looked at him for assault.
I wonder what made him confess. Like what was in him?
I think
Was he slow?
I think he thought that those people had more information than they thought they would.
Oh, kind of like the last case we were talking about. Remember one of the lackeys from the Faruko thing? He thought that they were talking about Faruko, and he confessed to Faruko, but they were really talking about an assault.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was kind of one of those things. So he basically fucked
Yeah.
himself in a good way. I mean, that's good for us. He's
Yeah.
gone now, but
So basically, 9 hours later, the prosecutor, R.G. Smith, stumbled out of the interrogation room and she was crying in the arms of cops. So imagine if you're, a woman hearing the multiple murders of prostitutes and how emotionally damaging this probably is. Later, Francois giggled as relatives read their victims' statements, and he pulled 8 consecutive life sentences. So he was laughing when the victims were making their statements.
hey, sweet tea.
Hi, sweetie. So, how you doing, sweetie? So basically, he was giggling with that like that's how fucking evil this guy was.
He had to have been brain damaged somewhere. Like I'm trying to find like what is it? It's
And you
either
could show the picture of like them removing the bodies, like the body, like one of the bodies. And sweet tea, we're talking about Kendall Francois, aka the Poughkeepsie Killer, and aka Stinky. Basically strangled and killed 8 prostitutes in a 4 year, I think about 4 year basis or something like that, and basically actually 2 year basis, and actually was the cops completely fucked up that case. They even got one of their informants killed, basically, and this guy could have continued killing people, but if he didn't like just confess to it, he could have continued killing people, because the cops just ignored, women being assaulted and beaten up by this guy. Didn't connect the dots. This guy was actually murdering these prostitutes. So
yeah, psychopath. That's what I've heard too. Psychopaths can pass a poly.
yeah, I mean, like the whole thing, a lot of people don't realize is polygraphs just measure anxiety and stress.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not experiencing anxiety and stress about your questions, then kind of defeats the purpose of the polygraph. I remember I went to, and this is a side tangent. I had an argument with someone on Deets on the Streets as comments section,
Mm-hmm.
and the person like said to me like arguing about like I had bad statistics and everyone, and then like I gave to him, I said, listen, in a controlled studies, polygraphs work 70% of the time, and then he comes at me, he says, 70% of the times the courts would be screaming for usage of this, and I says, what if your computer only works 70% of the time?
Mm-hmm.
What if anything in life worked only 70% of the time? Like your gun only works 70% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Every time you pull the trigger, you get a 30% chance of your gun not firing. I mean, like, that's just crazy. And then add that to the fact that this could be used in court to convict you for possibly murder in the earlier days. So, I mean, like, that's the problem with the polygraph. It's really just a tool. And the truth of the matter is most professionals will tell you, it's really just a tool as like like an instrument to make you nervous. It's an interrogation tool, basically. Everyone knows that basically what it doesn't detect lies. It's just basically a tool to get the person to confess. They make them, because we're all brainwashed. A lot of people in the media are brainwashed about, polygraphs. They call them lie detectors because you watch a lot of like, the Murray Show and all this stuff, and they think that it actually detects lies. It only detects stress and anxiety.
And it can backfire too. Look at what we talked about, that poor kid who took a poly test and he was so stressed out. He was a minor, just a kid, being accused of the murder of his sister. He never did it. And they automatically, they pushed him to a false confession by using a polygraph.
Yeah, and yeah, that's the Michael Crow. That was a stress analyzer. The guy who invented that. Yeah, the guy who invented that did 6 hours of Bible school, become a psychologist. So he says, BC says, victims' families or victims that escaped. Was there more than one that escaped? Actually, there was two that escaped. This woman, Scala, was the second one. The first one that, like, escaped, they only charged him with 15 days in jail, but they gave him only 7 days for assault. So technically, there was two people that escaped from being murdered. But the first one they only gave him 7 days for assault, and this was he was known for beating prostitutes. So yeah, I hope that answers your question, BC.
And yet nothing was done.
No.
No kid should be hooked up. Yeah, no kid should. That was we do have a video on that one from a
Yeah,
couple weeks ago. Yeah, that was a whole shamil. That was a big thing.
yeah. You can, that is another issue. But sorry for the side rant. That was just a little bit of a side rant with a polygraph. But
Good.
so 9/2/1998 to 9/5/1998, the bodies were removed from Francois' residence. For further investigation, the police keep the bodies of the victims for 2 weeks. In 9/4/1998, he was indicted in Dutchess County Supreme Court for the murder of Katina Newsmaster. And in 9/9/1998, he enters not guilty plea. Uh, in 10/13/1998, formally charged with the 8 counts of first-degree murder, 8 counts of second-degree murder, and 1 count of attempted assault. And in 12/23/1998, guilty plea for first-degree murder to avoid a death penalty on 3/31/2000, appeal heard at New York State County Appeals. He tried to appeal it, obviously. And in 5/19/2000, New York State Court of Appeals rejects the appeal, obviously. In 6/22/2000, is announced that Francois is HIV positive. And in 8/7/2000, Francois confesses to all 8 murders in a plea bargain that allows him to avoid the death penalty. He is sentenced to life in prison without parole. And then basically on 8/10/2000, he becomes a prisoner. His number was A4160 at Attica Prison in New York. And at 2003, he earns $30 a week as a welder in prison. And Francois died in prison in September 2014 at the age of 43 after having served 16 years. That's, so what are your thoughts on this case?
I'm gonna try not to be that person, but see, there's two sides to it. It's either.
Oh, wait. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
He was living in an abandoned house by a meat store or a factory. I think I may be confusing the two cases. Can you show him Can you show Sweet Tea the house?
Yes, the house he lived in was with his parents.
Yeah, and his sister. And they were living in there, and it was filled with garbage and all types of, maggots.
Are you getting it confused with the butcher that we talked about last week?
No, that was in Alaska. That was the Baker Butcher.
No. I'm asking Sweet Tea. Are you talking about the show we did? Maybe confused in two cases. Yeah, I think that was the last case we were talking about. One of the last cases that we were talking about. With the butcher in Alaska who did the hunting. He was a fucking monster too.
Oh, he was pretty bad.
We need to mix it up. We're gonna have to talk about like Eileen Wuornos.
Yeah, we're gonna have to talk about a lighter subject one day, like a lighter crime that maybe just thievery. Maybe we'll talk about the wine guy.
Well, we need to mix it up with like there's a lot of male serial killers out there, which is
maybe not serial killer. Maybe we'll talk about like thievery or something like a heist or something.
But we definitely should do Eileen Wuornos.
Yeah. Well, hopefully that answers your question, Sweet Tea. So that's the house, basically. That's a pretty old photo, actually. This, I think, was from Murderpedia. So Murderpedia, if you don't know, you can go there and look up, like, serial killers and look up articles there. So sometimes I go for source materials there. They have, like, the photos and stuff.
Yeah, they also have a lot more articles than if you were to wiki it.
Yeah, so Murderpedia is what it is. So yeah, that's the house, and I think with the wooden area is where he would stick the bodies, like 4 people, and in the attic was another 4 people.
Yeah,
and it
where
was
you
just
see that mesh right there, it was right
yeah.
there. Yeah.
And basically, the two parents, the mother worked at a psychiatric treatment place, and the sister was going to school for family uh, counseling. I think I got to look at the
Yeah,
article
family
again.
counseling. Yeah.
And the father lived there, and they did not know that there was 8 dead bodies in their house, and it was rotten. And it was even like skulls were in a kiddie pool, and just very, very weird that they never noticed it. Yep, I was confusing the two similar cases. No, I will have to find the other case that was similar to this in Ohio or New York. Okay, maybe that'll
Okay.
be something else.
Yeah.
So, I guess we'll go back to your opinion. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, I forget what the question is now.
Like, what's your opinion of this guy? Like, what do you like? What do you think is set him off? What do you think of the cops basically completely fucking this up?
Well, the cops. It seems like to be a rinse and repeat of every show. There was signs. There were people literally telling you. You had an informant die. Like there was signs, and they just ignored it because they thought a prostitution case of missing prostitutes were littling them. That's the cop. If you're a cop who thinks that, don't be a cop. You're not a good cop. Period. That's how I think about when it comes to the authority side. When it comes to him, I think he was just somebody who, was always told that he was a freak. He was huge. He was a big guy, 6'4", again, almost 300 pounds. Um, and then this, he's not a cleanly man, obviously. He stunk. Which I don't see. That's another thing too. If he stunk and his clothes stunk, how did nobody said anything about the mother's clothes or the sister's clothes or anything like that? Because stink,
Yeah.
if something smells, it lingers, and clothes absorb it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there was 8 bodies in the house, basically, Grand
Yeah,
Cherry. If I believe they wouldn't know. I don't know if I believe. I don't believe they wouldn't know either. I'm still confused. Daddy didn't notice. He was actually sleeping near the corpses,
yeah.
actually. You want to know?
I would like to know more about his father. I wonder the reason why there's not a lot of information about his father.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Then maybe I don't think the father did anything. I just think that maybe the father. I don't think he did anything when it came to these victims, but I kind of wonder if maybe Kendall was a victim from his father or something. Like, because I'm trying, because you want to blame something. Because all the serial killers we've talked about, there was a cause. There was something. It was either brain damage, upbringing, both of it combined, traumatic experiences. But Kendall didn't really have any of that, except he got made fun of. But we've all gone to school. We've all been, at one point in time, a victim from being bullied and stuff. But we're not fucking serial killers. So
I,
what is it?
I think that, I mean, maybe like my thought process is that there's something was wrong with this house. That there seems to be like, if they're not cleaning up the house and they're living in filth, maybe someone had some sort of mental problems or something. Like maybe the whole household was fucked up. Maybe it just appeared it was okay in the outside, but inside it was really fucked up. I mean, it's like one of those situations where you really don't know, like, why. You know what I mean? Like, why? I mean, I remember I was reading a psychological report,
Mm,
and he didn't wasn't abused. He wasn't killing animals. He didn't set fire to things. He didn't have the typical signs of a serial killer, really. Um, he was just isolated and was made fun of by his peers, and it's just very weird to see that. You know what I mean? You don't usually see that. Just someone just suddenly starts murdering people without any really huge early signs. Maybe the sexual, he just uh, harassing women sexually a little bit, like making inappropriate jokes, is why. Yeah, maybe that's a sign. But
mm.
yeah, it's that's just very interesting about it.
And it was a 3-year span he did this too.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm looking him up, and I was trying to find his father. I only know his father's name, but there's nothing.
I mean, like I'm reading this report. I think it's let's see. Let me see the report. And it says, someone actually wrote a summary of the report, and it's from the Department of Psychology, Radford University, Radford.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, and it's interesting one point of it makes towards the end. There is variety of factors that may have been influential in triggering the multiple killings committed by Francois. The large man, physically unattractive, demonstrated hostile aggression on numerous occasions. His body odor and lack of hygiene contributed to the ridicule he faced in school. It was not the only time he would experience ridicule, however, of the prostitutes that he killed had made fun of and ridiculed Francois just prior to their own death. It is hard to determine what the final event of Francois' life was drove him to commit 8 murders. Nonetheless, the African American serial killer, with mixed components of organized and disorganized killing, is a very different and unique type of serial killer. So that's probably explains it all. Like, uh,
Fucking
nose
monster.
blind. I don't know if he was nose. You know, you can actually get used to a smell after like 15 minutes. So maybe that's why they all got used to the smell after 15 minutes. Right. Someone would have said, get rid of the smell, and Daddy would check where the smells are coming from. I don't get it unless they were all just dirty people. Yeah, I mean, or it was a sign of like like maybe like the parents are mentally ill. You know, sometimes hoarding and stuff like that. Maybe that's added was a contributing factor. Anthony Sowell is who I was confusing
Yeah,
with that
he's
kid.
in Ohio. I just looked it up real quick, Sweet Tea. Um, he looks familiar. I'm
Yeah, I
probably
don't think he.
I watch a lot of true crime, so
Yeah, I see what you're talking about. Yeah, but
who
yeah,
is he smelly?
was he smelly too, Sweet Tea? Maybe we
That's the
found it
thing. The smell was so bad. His legit nickname
was
everywhere was
Stinky.
Stinky.
Yeah, aka Stinky.
And he was a military. The other guy that that Sweet Tea's talking about, this guy was also in the military as well. There's a lot of
Excellent.
similarities.
Yeah, maybe that's why they got confused.
Yeah.
Maybe an interesting case to look into
Mhm.
next time. But yeah,
He had a oh, this is so sad. He had a bigger list.
yeah.
It's so sad.
For- yes, they could have been. Yeah. Speak to. I went in somewhere and choked wherever.
Um See, I don't know.
Oh.
Something smells in my house. I have 2 cats and they cough up hairballs and stuff like that, so I'm always searching to clean and carpet clean.
Mhm.
Like I can't have smell in the house. I really can't.
Yeah.
Like, so I notice even when I smoke cigarettes in my house, I do. But I have, I don't like the smell of the cigarette smoke in my house or in my clothes. So I have windows, I have purifiers, I have candle. Like, how do you don't get used to it of any type of smell. I
Well, you
always
could get
thought, I know other
you.
people can, but
Yeah, you could get used to certain smells. I think they would like living in filth, but I think the. I mean, like, I don't think he was born this way. I think he just grew up where this environment made him into this type of killer. And I think like he was disorganized killer and then he became an organized killer later on. I think he got a sense of power over women's lives eventually, a power that he rarely had in his life. He was
mm,
discharged from the military for obesity. He was ridiculed in high school. He probably didn't have like a fantastic home life. Um, you know, even the women, the prostitutes he was paying would ridicule him. And I think it got to the point where maybe he just started getting power.
mm-hmm.
I mean, like murder that way you say is kind of, intimate when you're strangling. And I think that's my speculation. I think it was basically the one time in his life that he felt, you know,
In
powerful.
control, yeah,
Yeah, in
powerful,
control, powerful.
yeah. But
Um,
that's a lot of these men too. Like I
also,
was thinking about doing about the Cleveland case because at least that case the girls are alive, and I thought that would be like a not a happy case to talk about, but at least a case where oh my god these women are free and they're thriving and it has kind of a happy ending to it.
and
Um,
the sad
it was a
thing is,
power thing though.
yeah, and the sad thing is that, the cops, they didn't take it seriously. and they
Mhm.
bungled this investigation since the beginning. I mean, they even got one of their informants killed, and you know, they're not written about how badly they got. Like, they didn't get fired, they didn't get anything. They're just
Oh.
like, if you go to most documentaries, are they named as like complete morons, or are they
Mhm.
named as the guys that caught the killer? You know
Mhm.
what I mean? It's just sad that, and it still continues to this day.
Oh
Nothing's
yeah.
changed in this time period.
Very
And
rarely. I mean, there's been some cops who have done some stupid shit lately that are being held accountable and losing
no,
their
no,
jobs,
I'm
but
saying
this
no,
is
no, no.
horrible.
I'm saying when it comes to the prostitutes and serial killers
Oh
murdering
yeah.
prostitutes and the investigation that occurs.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's just sad. I mean, if you look at
It's
the
horrible.
Timothy Haslett case, which, by the way, you should be looking into the Timothy Haslett case, it's pretty similar. Where rumors in the neighborhood, there's a serial killer, cops shut down any social media that talks about a serial killer, shuts down, tries to shut down the rumors, and then suddenly a woman escapes from the house from Timothy Haslett, half naked, starving, and claims that multiple friends are killed, and now they're locking up the house for a month,
Oh,
and
this
they're
is the
like,
new one.
yeah, this is the new one, and they're not saying any statements about anything for a month, and they're removing thousands of pieces of evidence, and they're hearing about like tow cars being towed from the scene, and it's like, it sounds like the same thing, where prostitutes were being targeted, the cops just basically ignored it, and I'm hoping I'm wrong in that Timothy Haslett is not a serial killer, and it's just simply, you know, you know, hopefully it's just this one woman. I mean, it's just one person, but it
No,
just sounds very similar.
she's saying that there was more.
Jeez.
Yeah, I'm reading an article now because I didn't know much about it, so I'm bringing it up as we
Yeah,
talk.
she's saying that her friends were killed, but they're keeping very tight lip on if there's other victims, and it's, you don't remove thousands of pieces of evidence
Hmm.
when it comes to
His
a
whole
kidnap.
house is
Yeah,
fucking boarded up. Like I see the picture now.
yeah.
Yeah, no.
So I think
Jesus.
it's probably the same thing that's happening, and I think it's probably gonna blow up. I think if there's a revelation that this guy was preying on the women and on prostitutes, and the cops basically ignored the case, because and ignored what
Hmm.
what the neighborhood was saying. Oh, it's gonna blow up. But I'm gonna keep my mouth shut about it because I'm gonna wait until the cops say who's the victims. That's why I really haven't talked too
Mm.
much about it because,
It's too
uh,
new.
yeah, and I'm just waiting for the actual. But if you wanted like daily coverage, obviously Sooth Mom.
Yeah.
I d
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll
I
go to
doubt
Sooth
it's
Mom's.
one too. I doubt it's one too, but I'm hoping it's just one PC. But I mean, if you want full coverage of it, Sooth Mom's been covering the case extensively. Deets on the streets does clips of it. So yeah, if you want to cover the watch Timothy Haslett,
Mm.
that's going to be very interesting development. But other than that, yeah,
It's
this is the
horrible.
discussion. This was our stream on Kendall Francois. You know,
Is there something? Is there somebody that you would like us to talk about? Because you can tell us now, or in the comments, let us know. I was, Gabriel Castro or Ariel Castro. I was thinking about, since that kind of had, even though it's a horrible story, at least the women survived. I was thinking about that, or Eileen Warnos. Switch it up a bit because we talk about a lot of guys. Maybe we can talk about her. What would you all like to hear? Let us know. And also this Friday, I'm sorry again. I know we're canceling a lot of Friday streams, but this Friday too, we will not be around. We're doing
all right. Tell
another
the
work
truth.
thing.
Are hitting barrels. Yeah, they removed barrels. By the way, Tony, on the Timothy Haslett case, they were removing
Oh,
barrels
good
from the
lord.
guy's house,
I'm
like the
gonna
Dahmer barrel.
I have a couple videos already opened up that I'm gonna watch after the stream because I've heard of it. We brought it up. You brought it up to me before, but it was so new. We kind of
Oh,
want to talk about cases that aren't currently being investigated because that's where a
yeah,
lot of shenanigans come from.
yeah, and I think like the reason why I really haven't talked too much about it is because I'm kind of waiting until they reveal there's more bodies.
Mhm.
Because like I don't want to just like start saying there's a serial killer on the loose
Mhm.
without without waiting for them to say there's more bodies.
Yeah.
Uh,
But yeah, Sleuth Mom is right. You don't That's a lot of evidence I saw them pull
I've
out.
never seen a situation like that in all the true crimes I looked into. It seems very odd that you remove barrels from the house. The woman claims that all her friends were killed. Two her friends get killed. That the guy basically has, and this is Timothy House that we're talking about.
Yeah.
That there's thousands of pieces of evidence. They're sealing up the house. They're keeping tight lip about it. I mean, like, and they're not doing any press. Like, I don't know. Did they do it? I don't even know if they did a press release about Timothy Osler. Maybe they did,
There's
and
some
I forgot.
articles. There's articles I see from 5 and 6 days ago. I couldn't read them all now, but yeah, there there's news coming out, but there's not. As far as I know, there has not been a press
I
briefing.
smell a cover up. I honestly, this is my speculative hat, my tinfoil hat. I smell a cover. We just read an article about how they just kind of fucked up with the
Well,
prostitutes and they
police are
didn't.
known to cover up. I mean, we did do that sad, that
Oh,
kindergarten
you
shooting.
want to do the Ariel Castro case, the kidnapping? I thought.
We will do the Cleveland Three. We will definitely do the Cleveland Three. I think Ariel Castro is a monster, but at least at the end of it, these women are thriving, and we should definitely talk about them because that was horrible. And people get it so confused because they weren't captured for the first woman was captured over 11 years. It wasn't just 10 years. But I think we should talk about Ariel. Ariel Castro I
Yes.
think would be a good one for you guys. Yeah.
So, so we'll see you Monday. We'll do the Ariel Castro on Friday, of
Mhm.
course. Tony doesn't want to tell you the real truth. Tony is actually a gigolo, and he
Mhm.
has a Friday job, and he's got to be a gigolo. He's got
Mhm.
to make the money.
Mhm.
Is that true?
And
Is that true?
well, you're going to be with me, so hey baby.
Yep. Yep. That's unfortunately, that's how we have to support ourselves. The gigolos now.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, that was
But
a little levity for the whole dark situation. You got to have a little levity in this
yeah.
horrible
Um, but
case.
but every month there will be one Friday that we will not, be around due to
Yeah.
work. But other
Yeah.
than that, we will be back on Monday with the
Ariel
Ariel
Castro.
Castro, the Cleveland Three, and we'll have all that set up. That's gonna be a lengthy
Yeah,
one.
yeah. I don't know any. I barely know anything about that. So it's gonna be a lot of research. That's for sure.
It really. That's all I'm gonna say is sigh. It's so sad. People are sick. Be careful out there. You guys are dangerous for people.
Dangerous.
Line away.
Well,
Yeah,
Tony's got the taser. That's the plan.
I do. Zappy
Uh,
zap.
exactly. No fair. You get to spend time with great people. A person. Exactly. Spilling tea. All right, guys. You have a good one.
Yeah, you
We'll
guys
see
have a
you
good
next
one.
time.
Thank y'all for joining us, and we'll definitely do Ariel Castro. Y'all happy Monday. I hope you guys are safe this week, and yeah, keep an eye on post, and please like, share, please subscribe. We're gonna try to hit that 500 mark, so yeah, share us around. Y'all be safe out there.